Hello everyone, my name is your host Damien, and welcome back to Servition Gaming. So we're on part 2 of the chess tournament here. I'm playing as black, my opponent white, and this game, though significantly shorter, actually I thought my opponent played a lot better in this one than the first one. And the first one my opponent hung a couple pieces and was playing some weird moves like knight on the edges. But this one, my opponent seemed to be a bit higher elo. He was playing a lot better, a lot more cleanly, always keeping his pieces guarded. But I think he just wasn't used to some of the theory that was going on in this game. And well, let's check how it was. So again, I'm with the black pieces. We opened e4, and I had prepared the Sicilian for this tournament. Got knight f3, d6, and he immediately goes to open up the center, which is usually fine for white, as you know, it can go knight takes here, knight, and you've got the knight orf going on, which is great for white, and I know that decently well for black, so I was prepared to play it. Went ahead and captured. And I was trying to get the knight orf going on, but my opponent plays a little bit of a strange move, but that's not too far out of the way of opening. So again, standard development. He actually takes, which is a little strange. The eval bar doesn't like this for white. Actually, it dropped a little bit there, but in what I've seen from playing, this is actually pretty good for white when white takes. So I went ahead and took back. He pushes his pawn, and so you might say, well, hey, isn't that just a free pawn? No. Check, takes, and he wins your queen. So got to be very careful in some of these positions that even some lower ranked players are able to get you with these little hints. So gotta always be watching what is unguarded here, right? So you cannot take this pawn, in fact, and of course your knight is under attack with the pawn right now, so got to move the knight. My idea was I was watching this square because it's currently attacked twice, and so my idea was if he took, I could hop and put pressure on his bishop to move, as well as if he took with the pawn, now that the knight is on here, it also watches this square that the bishop is trying to take. That way, you know, there's no idea of him taking, taking and then going here and doing the exact same thing to me again. So he goes ahead and takes, I take. Again, I don't want this to happen because I lose castling privileges. So he moves back, a couple moves. The reason I played this, it's a bit of a strange move. Usually, you know, you'd go closer to your king side somewhere to guard it after you castle, but this was to prevent him from castling. So a couple more moves go by. Here he prevents my bishop from seeing. Now he can castle again. Queen up, again, that's to pin this in the way, and this pawn, it's not pinned per se, since, you know, it can freely move up and start attacking, but if it does move up, knight moves away, and he loses castling again. So he goes ahead and castles before that, I follow suit, and he pushes this pawn. Now the evo bar doesn't like this, and I'll kind of show why. There's actually a really sneaky trick here, and I'm really proud of white for playing it. But this move. So the idea is that if you capture with the bishop right away, his knight comes down, protects the bishop here, but also threatens your queen. So if you capture with the bishop first, you got to go move your queen away somewhere else, anywhere else. And then this is guarded now, and he keeps his pawn structure right here. This doesn't have to take, and ultimately he's doing just fine. I mean, he might lose the bishop pair, but that's about it. So instead, this took a bit of time for me, actually. I had to analyze this a while because of this little trick of his right there. And I ended up playing knight captures. And the reason is, of course, you want to capture back, but you can't, you have to capture this one first. If you capture here, of course, I just take it right back and now I'm up. Or not necessarily up, but just in a much better position. So it captures back. Only now do you capture the bishop, because now, once the knight captures here, this is unguarded. Now, instead of moving the queen away, due to this knight being here, now you can freely capture, place pressure on the knight. He blocks. Now, the threat is that his knight is going to move somewhere sneaky, and I have to move my queen away. So again, threaten his queen first. Danger level is always important. And here is where he makes his second blunder. Because he kind of lets this pawn go, what ends up happening is he loses this, which is a very important piece. And that was why that little sneaky tactic of his earlier was so strong, was because it baits you into him not having to lose this square right here with his pawn. If you would have taken the bait of that little trick, he would have kept this. But since I saw through it, he now loses that pawn structure, and I punish it. So again, he hangs another piece by moving the king back. The reason this is much better is because it now double guards the knight. So he loses the knight. Stockfish is saying to do this because technically, yeah, it's a better game for black if you take with the rook. But because I was already up material, I have a queen now, or sorry, not a queen, a bishop, and he doesn't. I also have a couple extra pawns here. I went ahead and traded queens because I knew I'd be better. A couple pawn sacrifices later, and I didn't see this at the time, but I actually don't have to reply with the king. What ended up happening was I replied with the king, trying not to get back ranked, but I actually didn't need this, as the bishop allows this guard. So if he were to move, if he were to move here, takes, and the bishop can guard, and then now I'm just winning. But I kind of didn't really want to use this bishop as a guard, and it's always good just to get out back rank anyway. So I went ahead and moved this pawn up. So I moved the bishop out of the way, clearing more space away from his rooks, as well as guarding this square in the event that I need to queen later. He attacks the bishop, I guard, and at this point white resigns, because black is simply better. Actually, what's interesting is that after this move, Stockfish is actually suggesting this, and the reason is, well, isn't that hanging? Mate, right? They're getting back ranked, take the rook, and it's mate in 2, or sorry, mate in like 3. And so that's actually why. But again, 7-0 time crunch. I was like in 30 seconds left, I think. I was just going to run a bunch of pawns up. So white resigned after this move. There's simply nothing he can do. This is guarded. He can't get back into the A file in time before this rook takes it. At that point, the pawn's simply getting pushed. His king's down on the H file. He's got no movement here. His pawns just won't be able to stop these, and the bishop. The king guards all of this. The bishop's just on such a nice square that this rook's going to be doing nothing. So anyway, that's the result of the second game. I'm now up 2-0 in the tournament. So thank you very much for watching, and join me next time for part 3.